dear friends, my name is Dmitry, and more often than not I shoot some videos about TOEFL and IELTS preparation as well as about other tests on YouTube. Also, I tutor people quite successfully to sit those exams. And so I have decided to record this video in English in order for you to listen to some English, in order to practice my speaking English, also to show you that I'm not afraid of my mistakes. Because we understand that we're all non-native speakers of the language, and if you make some mistakes, it's okay, it's quite normal. So, because I know that a lot of guys, they are very embarrassed to make any mistakes, being told by their teachers at school and so that it's awful, it shouldn't be so, you must control every utterance or something. No, I don't keep to this philosophy. I prefer speaking as I do. And so even if I do some mistakes, it doesn't matter because we try to communicate, not feel like robots, just in order to be ideal. Okay, so enough of this introduction. I want to tell you about one very important aspect of your preparation for TOEFL, IELTS, let's say Duolingo, and maybe some other tests, FCE, CAE, where you have speaking. Speaking is such an interesting, yes, very interesting field of activity because it requires, in theory, automatical, very fast workout of your mental capacities, so that you should speak subconsciously, in theory, as I say, because most of non-native speakers, especially those tortured by their grammar teachers at school, they cannot speak automatically. They translate, and moreover they try to predict and control every phrase which they are about to produce. So in this way, it's a torture. Yes, really, they exert themselves, they don't get pleasure. And you know, I want to tell you one of the main principles or main approaches about speaking, which will help you really get a decent score at your tests. So, what I'm talking about the very simple and basic thing of repetition. So, okay, let's clarify what I mean. So, for example, let's imagine a typical scenario of how a student with his tutor are just working out that some question on, let's say, IELTS. So, IELTS speaking consists of 3 parts. Let's take, for instance, part number 2. Yes, 2 is always to describe something within 2 minutes. So, if you want to describe something, so you speak for, let's say, from 1 to 2 minutes. So, what people usually do? The student, he speaks about this once. The teacher, it's an ideal variant. I don't know what most teachers are doing. So, he is sitting and making some notes. Notes. Then they discuss. Some teachers even interrupt, interfere with this process. It's very unwell. It's very bad, I think. So it shouldn't be so. And then, okay, they have discussed, and what goes then? They proceed to another question. For example, to the next test, to the next question. So they lose upon a very important aspect of this, which is repetition. You know, judging by my experience, I want to tell you that you should, in the least, practice this question, each question, for minimum of 10 times. Minimum 10 times. I think ideally it would be 20 times or 25, but you will say, okay, I'm not crazy. Yes, so 10 times. I understand, of course, that you're gonna say that it's boring, it's tedious, monotonous. I'm not goofy to reproduce what I have already said again and again and again. I understand, but we can successfully diversify the process. You see, for example, you have answered once this question, number 2 at IELTS speaking. It can be TOEFL speaking question 2 or any Duolingo. So you have answered yes, and so the teacher has commented upon it, yes. Then you do it again the second time. Depending upon the circumstances, you can diversify, you can deviate from your typical scenario with this answer, or you can try to reproduce your answer. Then you proceed to other typical activities. For example, discussing some, I don't know what you discussed, but then in 10 minutes or 15, you return to this question again, and speak about it again. Okay, then you change to some other, shift your activity into some other fields. Then again, in 10 or 15 minutes, you come back. Next lesson, you remember about that question, your tutor or you by yourself, and again you practice. You see, I fully comprehend, and so I agree that it can be boring, but I agree with some teachers, so it's better not to burn out through the questions, but to practice each question multiple times. It's the reality, it's a given, you see, it's a fact. So we should present some kind of persistence in this, and consistency. A little bit. So a little bit, we have our will, yes, we can direct our efforts into this field. Of course, it's much easier to do once, and much more interesting again to open a new question, yes, and to answer the new question. No, you see, it will not work, it will not yield you such benefits that this monotonous, as you think, repetition brings. So remember, minimum 10 times, 10, better 15 or 20. Of course, an experienced tutor, he can alter a bit the contents of the question so that he will ask you some questions related to this, so you will be in reality spinning around this idea, but through different vantage points, yes, from different vantage points. So you will be discussing the same idea, the same topic, but your brain will be thinking that you're discussing something else. And then, of course, it does not present any shield against this activity. Yes, I understand that it depends upon the tutor, but the principle is here, your constant repetition and reproduction of one and the same brings you great success in English. It's anywhere, not only in English. If you ask experienced sports people, yes, for example, tennis players, badminton players, basketball players, how do you practice? I remember one interview, I don't remember where I read it, but so Shaquille O'Neal or someone asked about, how have you achieved such level of performance? It's amazing. What do you do? Maybe you have some secrets of training, yes, some hidden, I don't know, strategy. So he says, no, everything's quite simple. I practice basic, primitive tricks, approaches, stunts every day, hundreds of times every day. So I become so automatical in them that not only don't I think about it, it's by default, yes, but I become so automatic and fast at them that it's my second life. So you see, basic approaches, basic exercises, hundreds of times. We can say thousands of times globally, yes, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of times. So remember about this. Practice one and the same a lot of times. One and the same a lot of times. Your tongue gets accustomed to this level to this fluency of the language. I wouldn't say that if you practice just this question once, then the next question once, it doesn't bring any benefit. No, of course, it develops your English and so on, but it may be 3 or 4 or 5 times worse in its effect than your constant repetition of one and the same. Yes. Okay, guys, I wish you success in IELTS, at TOEFL, at all tests having to do with English. Remember, the main key to your success is your general, overall level of your general English. It is 90% of your success, 90, or maybe 95. No matter what strategies you use during your preparation or anything like that, if your vocabulary is scarce, you will not be able to achieve the maximum score, or at least somewhere near the maximum, just because you lack the words. And the graders see that, feel that, you will get a normal score. Let's say at IELTS, maximum 6 out of 9, but not more. You need to show your vocabulary in your writing and your speaking. Also, you need to show your vocabulary in understanding those texts and answering them. Especially, by the way, in TOEFL, this vocabulary is so important because there are thousands of words from biology, zoology, physics, geography. So they are not very specialized, very narrow, but in general they are, let's say, I don't even know how to call them, so they are common at the same time, but not those which you will hear when young people are speaking just in the street. They are more academic. And so, please, you need to enlarge your vocabulary. If you enlarge it greatly within half a year, 1 year, so you have already laid the foundation of 90% of your success. And then you utilize the strategy of constant repetition, reproduction of one and the same response, hundreds of times, and you will see the miracle. I promise you, it works. I have seen it multiple times. Okay, my friends, not to bother you for such a long time. So, you see, I don't know, maybe you have noticed some mistakes in my speech, some flaws. Maybe I'm a bit excited also. Everybody is excited when he's speaking just another language, and especially to an audience of hundreds and thousands of people. Yes, but I'm sure if I go to these IELTS, TOEFLs, and anyway, I will get either the maximum or near the maximum score, because I can express my thoughts clearly in English, and very often I'm not even thinking about what I'm saying and while I'm producing this. This is the key to your success. Okay guys, I love you, wish you success at the tests, and see you in the next video.